Greetings YouTube, let's look at the Diablo 4 beta. Here we go. Queued for login 15 minutes. What? What? 15 minutes? I'm guessing this is a live service game, but 15 minutes? Ugh. I'm gonna be here a while. You know, while we're waiting, I may as well talk about Diablo 3, eh? Diablo 3 is basically a dungeon crawler. Indeed, the dungeon crawler. You know, in the same way that games like Call of Duty settled into its groove a long time ago, some games are genre-defining. Things like Souls, or Destiny, or Diablo. The game basically works off of an isometric viewpoint from up above, and you focus on slaughtering every enemy in sight by mashing the various buttons at various times. There's not a lot else to it, to be honest. The story has always been a weakness. It's always been very cheesy. You come for the combat, stay for the loot. That's how this game functions. You know, speaking of loot, Diablo has a loot system. It's one of these games that has a huge, gargantuan amount of loot. It's kind of like Borderlands in that respect. It's more interested in quantity than quality. And I've always found in Diablo 3 how it just kind of renders the shops and the blacksmith obsolete. Because why would you ever buy or make anything when a horde of enemies or the next horde after that, or possibly the one after that, is going to drop you something that is probably going to be useful at some point? There's no point, is there? The shops, the blacksmith, I don't use them in D3. If you look at a game in contrast that I love, like Ghost of Tsushima, I love how in that game you get one sword, one short sword that you use it as a dagger. You get a short bow, a long bow, and you get a selection of armors, but each armor is designed for something specific. And it feels like you can actually invest time and effort and materials, and cash, I suppose, as well, all that stuff, into powering up the gear that you like to use. You can't do that in Diablo. Well, not in Diablo 3 anyway. Because why would you? Why would you? When the stuff you buy or make is going to be outclassed in 10 seconds time. You know, I'm sat here bored out of my brains by a 15-minute wait time. This is the widely available open beta. If you were a mug and you pre-ordered the game on the strength of getting early access to the beta, oh dear, some people, well, a lot of people were reporting 30 minutes or 60-minute wait times. At least one person that I haven't bothered to read up on or verify, apparently they were stuck in the queue for 8 hours. 8 hours? I mean, if a game told me to wait for 1 hour, I'd tell it to go screw itself and go off and play something else like, what have I been playing recently? Ghostwire Tokyo or something, you know? I wouldn't be sat there for 8 hours. It's made worse by the fact that I have a PlayStation. Because you can't tell it to load a second game up at the same time. It's not an Xbox. It can't pull that trick. I'm stuck in the queue. What else are you supposed to do? Nothing. Okay, I'm sure you're getting as bored watching this as I was when I was sitting through it, so skip. Ah, finally, and what's this? Oh, you are fucking kidding me. I need a Battle.net account now? Do you know, I had to do this for Exoprimal as well, but that only took me 10 minutes to sign up, and I didn't have to wait 15 minutes beforehand for the fucking privilege. Okay, one Battle.net account creation and connection later, and no! Oh, no, wait, it's not that bad. Sorry, I just saw the login screen again and immediately thought, fuck it, it's only 2 minutes this time. I say it only 2 minutes. As if that's a good thing. I suppose it is. Opening cutscene. Well, actually, this is the exact same cutscene we saw several years back. You know, the one where everyone's jaws hit the floor as Lilith comes through the underside of a demonic trampoline. And finally, we're into the class selector. What do we have? Well, we've got a barbarian, necromancer, sorcerer, rogue, and druid. Now, I went for the druid because it promised me I could turn into a werewolf. And here we... okay, there's a character creator. That's new. Normally they don't bother with that kind of thing in Diablo. Or at least I don't think they do. And... begin! And begin. Begin. Begin, you bitch! Oh my god. Log out. Log in. Fuck! 2.5 minutes later. And, oh, it's remembered my character. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it remembered I made one. And... begin! Thank you! Another 4-minute cutscene, because this hasn't been long enough already. And finally, I'm actually playing the actual game. It's only taken me an hour to get here. An hour. Does anybody remember the time when you put a disc, or a cartridge if you're old enough, in the console and it just worked? Anybody remember those days? The one who waited for 8 hours has probably actually forgotten. So, what can we finally discern from the beta? Well, it's a Diablo game. I'm sorry, were you expecting something different? Yes, I just spent an hour waiting to confirm something I already knew I was going to confirm. That is correct. We all did it! Anyway, it has the isometric perspective that you can't change. The background scenery magically and, to be honest, intelligently vanishes when it obstructs your view. Of your character, at least. Combat is very button mashy. You start with just a single attack and earn others as you level up. Except you don't. See, normally, at least in Diablo 3, you earn specific attacks and specific enhancements at specific level numbers. Specifically. Not here. Here, you level up, you gain a skill point. That point can then be spent on an upgrade tree. This is new. I mean, it's new for Diablo. Other RPGs have been doing this for years. but this isn't normally how Diablo works. You can refund any choices that you make, even if you're out in the field. You don't have to go back to base to respec anything, and respecs are free. Well, until you hit level 9. Once you hit level 9, the cost in gold slowly starts to go up. But it's that flexibility is still there. It's just in a different form than usual. I like how you can respec for free right at the beginning. You know, try some things out. I know I did. I started with the werewolf form, but I tried out the wind attacks, which were actually pretty decent, and the lightning attacks, and the second more powerful lightning attack was much better, which is why I eventually developed my werewolf into one that could call down a lightning storm from above, because that worked for me. But I like how you can blend the powers together in that usual Diablo way, and as I say, the respecs give you a bit of flexibility early on, just to try stuff out. Now, you also have a dodge, naturally, but unnaturally, the dodge now has a cooldown timer of its own. I'll run that by you again. The dodge has a cooldown timer. This is new. No longer can you spam the dodge feature to get yourself out of trouble every time you find yourself waist deep in demon claws. Now you have to be tactical about it when you use it. And I know that when I got into trouble in D3, I was spamming the dodge feature to get out of the middle of mobs. You can't do that anymore. Add to that the fact that all your regular powers have either energy costs or cooldown timers or both. You've got to think about every single move you make. It's something I used a lot back in D3 was any armor which gave me health regeneration. Because armor back in that game was classified according to its attack power, defense power, and vitality power. And I always used to go for the vitality, the health regen. Regen over time. Regen when hitting enemies. Regen when killing enemies. I used to load up on that stuff. Can't help but notice, in this beta at least, I haven't tripped over any armor which seems to do this kind of thing. The various armors give you certain defensive bonuses, and they certainly give you armor protection, but they don't give you all that gubbins from D3. So because of that, if you couple the cooldown on the dodge with the lack of passive health regen, suddenly you've got a game where you have to be much more careful. I know in Diablo 3 I spent 98% of the entire game not looking at the health gauge. Not looking at the health gauge. This time though, I'm glancing at it in every fight. Every 10 seconds. At least. You have to. And I know that some people hate it. And others quite like it. I quite like it, I have to admit. Normally after I've been playing Diablo 3 for about 2 or 3 hours, I have to stop. Because as much as I like it, it gets mind-numbingly repetitive. With this one though, I could stand to play for quite a bit longer. Because you can't quite let your brain go to sleep as much as you used to. I mean, it's still going to nod off every so often though. Some enemy mobs you can certainly still steamroll through on autopilot, but you can't quite do it as much this time round. And especially not against the bosses. You can't do it with the bosses. Even though they follow the usual attack pattern of hit you a few times, or try to hit you a few times, back up, summon a wave of demons to assist them, rinse and repeat. You still have to be careful. Now, gone also is that weird radial menu that used to be your inventory. Your equipment used to be subdivided into things like helmet, body, feet, rings, necklaces, that kind of thing. But you used to have to navigate that radial menu in order to get everything, and they've done away with that. Now there's just an equipment page with everything listed at the bottom. You know, like a normal RPG. I mean, that radial menu was just weird. As much as I really did love the quick sort system they came up with to counter it, it did all feel a bit unnecessary. I mean, as one-time Top Gear presenter James May once said, it's an ingenious solution to a problem that should never have existed in the first place. This time they just built a normal inventory system that you could just navigate normally as if everything is normal, rather than doing the weird radial menu. Now, as is customary with these kind of games, you can upgrade your stuff at the blacksmiths and buy stuff at the shops. Although why you would want to do either of these two things is still a mystery to me. Loot still drops frequently. And yes, most of it you will sell or salvage. Certainly you won't have to buy or build stuff. If you do, I guarantee you it'll be outclassed by the first random pair of pants a demon drops in 5 seconds time. It just will. Although I do recommend you visit the potions person. They can permanently upgrade your standard healing potions that you carry everywhere and, owing to everything else, are suddenly vital for your survival. That's definitely something to stay on top of. That is definitely worth investing resources and time in. Upgrade your potions. Overall, though, it's the usual kill everything that runs at you gameplay we've come to expect from the series, you know. You might have to pay a bit more attention to your health than you did before, especially at the start. I've always found that the beginning of Diablo 3 and the beginning of this one is perhaps the hardest bit, because you've only got like 1 or 2 attacks at your disposal. Once you get more moves under your belt, once you upgrade a bit, you'll start to, as I said before, steamroll enemies. But otherwise, slaughter away. Just this time, try to resist the urge to button mash. That will certainly get you killed.